Yeah.
That's a
yeah.
good thing. Always good to talk.
So no, that's for sure.
Do you usually vote election day, or do you early vote?
I vote election day because I really want to. I want to see what's here. I want the feeling from election day. I really do.
I've early voted in the past because I'm always concerned that I'll get a call from a client that morning.
And we are on. And welcome to the Sonny Hirsch election special. I'm here with my co-host Jim Nally, leading election lawyer in Chicago. Want to thank our production. Our Sonny Hirsch is our producer. We want to thank Keith so much. Keith is here with us today. Keith, why can't I think of your last name? Unbelievable. Anyway, he's a mainstay here, and he's my Facebook friend, and I've known him for 15 years. And I want to thank Tyler and Kevin over in cable casting, as well as Terrence and Leslie and Amari and Joe, who throughout the year have helped us on CAN TV. And thank you so much for being here. Of course, I'm the publisher of Jewish Chicago. We've got slides of it, Sonny, and it's available at newsstands for free everywhere. It's gone a lot of places. We hope you'll pick it up. And in any event, we're going to have 4 guests calling in today. At least we're hoping we're going to have 4 guests call in, because everybody's going from church to church to church. It's election day. It's very busy. Our first guest is scheduled to be Judge Michael Bender. Our second guest is scheduled to be Dorothy Brown, who's really iffy because she's got a very tight schedule, clerk of the circuit court. Third will be Judge James Kaplan, who also is going from place to place. Fourth, Judge Kevin Horan. And of course, Jim and I will be talking politics. And Jim, anyway, always good to see you.
It's great to be here, Avi. This has become one of the signs of spring now, like the robins appearing. You and I doing the live election program. But it's always fun. There's always a lot of interesting races to talk about, and this is no exception this year.
That's for sure. Before I forget, there's somebody I owe an apology to from Jewish Chicago, and that is Thomas Osran, who's running for judge in the 8th District. I was very unaware of the fact that he was Jewish. I was very surprised, because usually people tell me. But for those of you, I do run Jewish Chicago, but it doesn't mean I automatically know my magic. It's not my job to contact all the candidates. I've got a lot of judges and judicial legal types that help me out, but it's not like, somebody shares a list with me, these are all the Jewish judges. So, you guys got to let me know. So I'm very sorry, Thomas, and I wish you good luck in the election. And considering some of the problems that your opponents have been coming up with doing things that aren't the way things usually are. Anyway, we'll see what is. It looks like we're a little bit out of order here today, based on the first caller.
Yes.
But you know what? Why not say hello in any event? We're happy to have him. Judge James Kaplan, how are you?
Hello.
Hi, I've got Jim Nally with me. Thank you so much for calling in today. How's the campaign going? Hello? Can you hear us?
Hello.
Sonny, can you hear us? This isn't working. Can you hear us at all, Judge? Okay, we're going to have to try again later. He's going to have to call back. So anyway, like I said, I wanted to give my apologies to Thomas Osran. Now, there's so much judicial stuff going on this time around.
Yeah, and before we get to that, I want to compliment you, Avi. This edition of Jewish Chicago, besides being extremely large and having a lot of information, the graphics are just beautiful.
Oh, thank you so much. I've really tried hard to, I tried very hard to take the high road, which in politics isn't always possible, but as often as I possibly could, I tried it. We're going to try again with Judge James Kaplan. Can you hear us now?
I can, Avi. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, and please say hi to
Hello.
Jim Nally.
Hello, Judge. How are you?
Hello.
So how's the campaign trail doing today?
There's some noise that happens when you try to connect me, Av, and I can barely hear you.
Okay, well, I guess Sonny and Keith are going to have to work on that a little bit. Can you hear me a little better now?
I can hear you now.
Okay, excellent. How's campaigning going?
It's going pretty well. We've got a lot of the Cook County community college professors just endorsed me, as well as the Carpenters Union, and the ongoing support of the AFL-CIO and the Federation of Labor. And recently, Alderman Pat O'Connor just endorsed me. So the endorsements are coming in, and I'm out campaigning every morning and every evening. So it's really going well.
No, that's excellent. And of course, I'm a fan. I've definitely got you endorsed and you know, like strongly endorsed in Jewish Chicago. And you know, you're one of the guys I'm really cheering for the most in this particular election.
Avi, it's really difficult for me to hear. There's some interference comes in every time you start talking.
No, that I'm sorry about. In any event, why don't you tell us about yourself some, so we don't have to worry about the back and forth?
Okay. Well, I can tell you that I'm a circuit judge appointed to the coal vacancy by the Supreme Court back in December of 2010. And since that time, I've been evaluated by all of the bar associations and found qualified or recommended, and the compliments that the Council of Lawyers and the Chicago Bar Association have paid me were very, very strong, and I appreciate them. And you know, Avi, I was a lawyer for 40 years with a people practice, and I didn't have just one client or one public client, but I had people. And when you represent people and deal with their unique problems on a daily basis and go to bed at night worrying about their case the next day and getting up in the morning and continuing with that worry, it has a tempering effect on you as a judge. And unless you have that type of experience, I'm not sure that dealing with high-volume courtrooms or courtrooms where there's great emotion or those types of circumstances prepare you unless you have had that experience. And so I'm very fortunate to have represented people, which I consider the highest calling of a practicing lawyer, and it's fared me well in dealing with the courtrooms that I do. And the Council of Lawyers, I believe, and the Chicago Bar also commented me on my courtroom management style, and all that's wrapped up into my legal experience and the like. So I'm grateful to all, and my campaign is doing very well, and it's going to be continuing to go on right down to the wire.
Well, we're definitely going to be cheering for you, Judge Kaplan, and well, I hope you come out victorious come Election Day.
Avi, I'm not hearing you. There's some impedance in the...
No, I'm sorry about that. You know, at this point, I think I just want to tell you, I wish you all the luck in the world.
Thank you.
And, you know, I hope you come out on top on Election Day. And thank you so much for calling in. And what is your punch number?
Punch number is really important, and thank you for asking. 190.
So, Punch, if you live in the A subcircuit, which is basically from a little north of Devon all the way down to 26th Street along the lakefront, punch 190 on Election Day or early voting for Judge James Kaplan.
Avi, thank you for all your help, and I appreciate it. And please say hello to Jim Nally for me.
I sure will. All the very best.
Okay, and be well. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Good luck, Judge.
So we started off the show with an excellent first guest.
A little technical difficulty, but it's good to hear from, you know, there's so many judges, and we'll talk about that on the a little bit later.
Yeah, we're going to have time later as opposed to earlier because people are calling in early. And I would say speak of the devil, but frankly, the guy's a complete angel and one of the finest guys going. But we have Judge Michael Bender on the line. Judge Bender, how are you today?
Hey, good morning. Good morning, Avi. Good morning, Jim.
Morning.
Can you hear us clearly?
A little echo, but no problem. Go ahead.
Okay, sounds good. So how's the campaign trail treating you?
We're working hard. We're working hard. We've got a lot of really good support. I'm really humbled by it. In fact, I'm humbled by your endorsement, the endorsement of Jewish Chicago and the Northtown News Magazine. It really means a lot to me, and it's meant a lot to the campaign, Avi.
Well, thank you so much. But the fact of the matter is there's sometimes, and there's sometimes you really have somebody that really belongs in judge's robes, somebody that's really distinguished themselves over, above, and beyond, someone who's respected by the entire Jewish community, as well as the community at large. I mean, you know something, a lot of the non-Jewish judges were trying to butter me up during the whole filming process and interviewing process, where I interviewed about 3 dozen by telling me they knew you, or their courtrooms were near you. It's, you know, you've become something of a judicial celebrity yourself after the very distinguished career of your father.
Avi, it's really nice of you to say that. I've been working hard since I've been on the bench in 2008 to bring justice to whoever appears in the courtroom where I'm assigned. And I mean that, because I'm assigned to a courtroom, and I serve the public, and I've never forgotten that. And that's the most important thing I think there is the understanding of where you come from and what your duty is. Right now I'm in the domestic relations division, and I'm working with children whose parents haven't been married. Unfortunately, there are situations of abuse, custody, visitation, and child support, and working very hard to make sure that these children grow up to be functional adults and are able to give back to society. I'm really, really humbled by the fact that you've recognized that I've been endorsed by the Chicago Tribune based upon my hard work, as well as the Fraternal Order of Police and many, many other groups. I really appreciate your support, Avi.
First of all, thank you, and it's my pleasure. And I think you're being modest because there's a lot more groups than that, but that's fine. Why don't you tell us something about your pre-judicial background?
Well, as an attorney, I practiced law for many, many years, both in private practice and with a firm. Did a great deal of pro bono work. Did pro bono work for, may he rest in peace, personal attorney for Simon Wiesenthal. I did that after my father became a judge and he was no longer able to represent him. I helped Simon in any way I could. It was nothing less than a great honor. I've always looked at the practice of law as a way to give back to society. A little known fact is I actually started off college as pre-med and then decided that although it's a wonderful thing to help people as a doctor, that wasn't the way that I wanted to do it. I wanted to help people on the greatest, at the greatest level possible, meaning affect most people, as many people as I possibly could with everything I did, and I think government's the place to do that. So I relish the fact that I'm able to serve as a judge, and every day I'm able to help 70 children, if not 80 children, every morning making their lives better. And it's just a really, really great honor to be able to do so. I use my skills that I had as an attorney because I represented people of all different religions, all different nationalities, all different ethnic backgrounds. And it really has given me a sensitivity as to the needs of everybody.
Well, that sounds great. Jim, do you have questions for Judge Bender?
Yeah, Judge. One of the things I always hear about you from other judges, from attorneys who practice before you, is they uniformly remark about, first of all, your patience and the respect you show people, whether they're attorneys or whether they're litigants who come before you. What's your judicial philosophy?
It's just, Jim, that's the nicest thing you could have said because, as I said before, I've never lost sight of the fact that I am there to serve whoever comes into the courtroom. It's their courtroom, not my courtroom. And when people come to court, there's a crisis. People generally, other than marriage court, don't come to court unless there is some kind of crisis in their lives. And I want to do whatever I can to help them get to a better place. And like I said, it's all about them and whatever I could do to serve them. So, of course, I'm patient. I'm there to serve them.
Well, it certainly has carried your reputation very far in that regard. And I think, as Avi remarked earlier, what I'm struck by a lot is even talking to a lot of your fellow judges, they're all remarking about your courtroom demeanor and how well you treat people and the respect you show people. And that's really, as an attorney, that's what I look for when I go in, just to be treated with respect, give a chance to present your case and get a fair hearing and decision. And uniformly, it seems that's what you're doing. So I want to thank you for that.
Jim, then thank you. To hear that from an experienced attorney with your background is a very, very humbling thing, and it means a great deal to me that you'd say that, so thank you.
Well, we're all for you. My family's for you. Some of them have already voted, so you've already got some votes in your column.
Oh, thank you so much, Jim.
Yeah, that's one thing that Jim and I very much agree on is, to me, the single most important vote I'm going to make, or the person I'm going to enjoy most voting for, is Judge Michael Bender. And, people don't realize how important judicial races are. I mean, the cases that Judge Bender, the 70 or 80 kids every day, some of these are abused children, neglected children, children left out to dry by the system. And this is going to have a profound effect on the rest of their lives. So first of all, not enough of you guys vote in the first place. Then, and not enough of you are registered to vote, then not enough of you vote. Then those of you who vote, 40% of you never go to the bottom of the ballot for the judicial slot. So how about this time going to the bottom of the ballot first? The number you should look for is 181. From a Jewish standpoint, that's 10 times high, which is 18, which is a very important number to us, and then vote for the number one guy on the ballot, which is 181, and that's Judge Michael Bender.
It's so kind of you, Avi, and thank you. And it is really important that everybody comes out and votes, pulls a Democratic ballot for the Democratic primary. It's a 9th sub-circuit. There is no Republican in the general, and that's because the area is so dominated by Democratic votes that a Republican couldn't win. So that's right, Avi. If people could please go out, take a Democratic ballot, and I really, really would appreciate continued support and everybody's vote. It would mean a great deal to me. I'd really like to keep serving. I feel I'm really making a difference, and I'd like to keep on going.
And by the way, I want to point out to everybody, too, that besides for us being on CAN TV Live right now, this will be replayed. You can go to our website at www.ntnm.org for the link. Plus, this will be on YouTube later today, Sunday. I mean, that's how fast we're going to do things. And I want to, we haven't really given people the boundaries of the 9th sub-circuit. So, Judge Bender, could you please give us the boundaries?
I will. It's on the north end. The far north end is Wilmette. If we go east, it goes to the lake, and it comes down to through the northern end of the 48th Ward, which is going to include the 49th Ward, all the 50th Ward. That's the Rogers Park, West Rogers Park area, all the way out to the lake. Then the district through the city will travel with its with its southern boundary being Peterson and Devon at some points, out to about Waukegan. Then it comes up through all of Lincolnwood, all of Skokie, all of Niles, all of Morden Grove, a great deal of Glenview, all of Evanston, and Gulf.
No, that's pretty good. I've got to tell you, I've been out delivering papers because, the outstanding fancy life of, people think like, the exotic life of publishing, right? Guess who the paper boy is? So I didn't do all of them, but I did a lot of them. And the amount of, I see more signs for you than any other candidate in any other race, all throughout the 9th sub-circuit, whether I'm in Skokie or whether I'm in West Rogers Park, or for that matter, my front lawn. I'm seeing a Bender sign everywhere.
Avi, it's really nice of you to say. I'm so humbled by the support. I can't express that more. I've been working very, very hard and very, very conscientiously, and the fact that those things are being recognized makes me feel good because it isn't about me. It's about the people I'm helping. And I just really, really appreciate the recognition. It feels good to be recognized for having done it. But, I'm going to keep working hard, and I'm going to keep on helping as many people as I possibly can as long as the 9th sub-circuit comes out and votes for me and keeps me on. I'm deeply honored to serve in a judicial capacity. I've lived in the area of the 9th sub-circuit my entire life. This is my home. I was born there. I'm still there, and I love it. And I think that may be one of the reasons that there's support district-wide. That may be because I've been active in the district my entire life. So people know that it's not just lip service. I'm really there for everybody, and it's been an honor and a great pleasure of mine.
Any final questions, Jim?
No question. Just want to wish you all the luck in the world, Judge, and I know you'll be victorious on March 20th.
I really appreciate the kind words. I hope so. And Avi, thank you very much also.
Thank you. Don't forget, punch 181, Judge Michael Bender. And by the way, that also was a good number in some other races too, but be careful because each district is different. Judge Michael Bender, thank you so much, and we hope you're victorious on Election Day.
Thank you, Avi. Thank you, Jim.
So that was terrific. So anyway, thank you so much. We've had two very exciting guests coming up, but let's talk about the election in general.
Well, I think one of the things you pointed out, Avi, the number of judicial races. I've been involved in election law for over 20 years. This is the single greatest number of judicial races in an election that I can ever recall. It's just amazing. There are, at the appellate court level, we have 6 vacancies that are going to be elected this cycle. On the county-wide level, there are 11 circuit judges. And then in the 15 sub-circuits, and I'd like to take just a moment maybe to describe sub-circuits because people don't always understand it. In 1992, a law was passed to break the county up into 15 sub-circuits, and each of those sub-circuits has 10 judicial openings in it. And the idea being, one of the ideas being is that traditionally when people vote for judges, it's very confusing to them. Many of the people don't know who the candidates are, what their records are, what sort of recommendations they've gotten. So the idea was is if this was broken down into smaller areas, number one, it might allow people to know more about the candidates who are running in their geographic area. Number two, it was also the idea of bringing more diversity to the bench. The diversity aspect, I think, has worked well. As far as people knowing who's running, unfortunately, judicial races, as you've talked about earlier, are at the bottom of the ballot. The fall off is normally about 40% of the voters who take a ballot don't even bother voting in the judicial races, which is terrible, because if you think about it as a citizen, the one branch of government more than any other, and the one elected official you're going to see is probably going to be a judge. Very few people meet the president, very few people meet their senators. Even when they're meeting their state representatives or local officials, it's usually in a large forum. You're going to step up in front of a judge at some point in your life, be it for a traffic ticket or some sort of a contract dispute, or maybe you're involved in an automobile accident. These are the people, as far as elected officials, who will probably have the most direct impact on your life. And it's very important that we elect good people and qualified people to those positions.
No, there's no question about it. And you touched on some really good points. People don't even begin to realize that you can't just look at names. You got to do some homework. For instance, I got an email from somebody Friday, and I mentioned him earlier in the show, Thomas Osran. I wouldn't have suspected in 3,000 years that a guy with a name like that was Jewish. So, if you're looking for all the Jewish names, that's not necessarily one of them. And there's guys named Lavin or Levy that aren't Jewish. So you can't depend on that either. And some people, like for instance, at one point in time, it was best to be Irish if you were running for something. And now, like, Lady Irish is really good too. But you know what? You never know what that person is with that name. I mean, it could just be just about anything. So, it pays to do your homework. You can pick up Jewish Chicago. You can also find the Chicago Bar Association reviews online. Do you want to talk a little bit about the bar associations and how they work on these things?
Sure. Every candidate who runs is contacted by the major bar associations in Cook County. And they are sent questionnaires to ask them about their background, their experience, and a background check is done. When you're running for judge, you're asked to list cases that you've worked on. And each of the bar associations then contacts the judges you may have appeared in front of, contacts other attorneys that may have been on the other side, and asks their opinion. How is this person in terms of their competency? What's their disposition like? Are they prepared when they come to court? Do they have a good grasp of the law? How do they treat other people? They're very, very involved, and the bar associations put a lot of time into this. After the investigations are done, then every one of the committees has a screening group made up of lawyers who meet with one-on-one with all the judicial candidates to ask them questions, to allow the candidates to talk about what they've done and what they plan to do as a judge. And then ratings are given out by these organizations. And we have, probably in Cook County, there are probably a dozen major bar organizations that do ratings. All these ratings are available, they're published, they're on the internet, and they will give you a lot of the background. There's usually a narrative that talks about what the investigation showed, what people say about this particular individual, the type of practice they have. So a lot of work goes into this. So there's very good information out there from all the various bar associations in terms of vetting people who want to be judges. And it's readily available to us, particularly now in the electronic age, where you can just pick this off the internet at any hour of the day. All the major papers, particularly in the coming week prior to the election, will have ads that are sponsored by the bar associations where they give a list of the candidates and the ratings. And the other thing I want to emphasize is most of these bar associations are not endorsements. So they're not taking a position in any particular race saying, vote for this candidate or vote for that candidate. They're trying to just give people objective information in terms of recommending them based on how they evaluate them on their record, on what other attorneys and other judges say about them, and give people the information that they need to make a good independent decision. So you as a voter can get this information and you can look at it and you can make your own decision based on what you read about a candidate. So it's all out there, and the problem is, unfortunately, very few people take advantage of it, And what you talked about earlier, Avi, is oftentimes it can come down to, you know, where your name is on the ballot.
No, it's not just where your name is, but you know what your name is
Right.
and all the rest of it. And although with touchscreen voting, hopefully you won't be necessarily dissuaded that somebody's first automatically makes them better. Sometimes they just want to draw. But one of the things we're talking about with the Chicago Bar Association and the other ratings, it was interesting to me when I looked at their green book, some of the things they take into account, and I actually tried to read the whole thing. For instance, they'll actually take into account, now you and I wouldn't think of this, I mean, Jim Nally, being a lawyer, would think of it, but how productive are they with their time also? Are they able to run a decent caseload through? You know, some people actually, you know, get really high marks because they're great on caseloads. But then you see some of that human element that we've seen in Judge Kaplan and Judge Bender is missing and not commented on, you know, within that guide, and that's a telling factor also. For instance, in the Supreme Court, and we didn't hit on the Supreme Court at all, and you've got 3 really outstanding candidates in that particular race, and they have very different talents. You know, you've got considered totally brilliant and respected by everybody and does a lot of good work. You've got Mary Jane Tice, and who's presently been appointed to the Supreme Court. Then you've got a very brilliant woman who's very respected on the appellate level of Joy Virginia Cunningham. And then you've got Aurelia Puczynski, who doesn't quite have the same bar marks, but she is like really respected by all the judges. People really like her a lot. And the fact is, I think she's got more of a human factor than the other 2.
Now, in fairness, there's an additional candidate, a gentleman by the name
Flanagan.
of Thomas Flanagan,
Yeah.
right, who has not served as a judge. All the other candidates you mentioned are currently judges, either in Justice Tice's case on the Supreme Court or Justice Cunningham or Puczynski on the appellate court.
No, that's true. And yeah, I just find it interesting that somebody who's never been a judge before hits for Supreme Court first. But then again, if you think about, okay, well, I don't want to vote for the 3 women, I'll vote for the guy. And that's how the thinking goes sometimes too.
Yeah, well, I mean, legally, any attorney, any licensed attorney in Illinois can run for any judgeship as long as they meet the residency requirements to live in that county or district that they're running in. That's one of the problems, I think. There really isn't any bar to be set other than somebody passing the bar. And you could literally pass the bar and be sworn in May or June and be running in that November's election or the following year in a primary election.
And of course, unfortunately, some of the appointments, even though it's by the Supreme Court, can be political. And some of the judgments, like politics does come into these things, unfortunately. But then again, if you have an appointed system, who's going to appoint the judge? Blagojevich? You know.
Well, that's always, you know, there's been a lot of talk about merit selection. The question is, how do you define merit? And who decides what merit is? And that's, that could be a problem because right now the system that we have allows people to vote. And we've talked about this earlier in the program. The problem with that system is that because of the large number of people running, most people don't have the time or don't take the time to make themselves familiar with the candidates. And if they vote at all, they may skip the races, but if they vote at all, many times it can come down to, as you said, somebody's name or where they're on the ballot position or something like that. So there are certainly flaws with this system. But if you go to what's considered a merit selection system, how do you define merit and who defines it?
No, it's a real problem. And, you know, the Bar Association ratings, let's talk some about the Bar Associations too. Because, you know, not all Bar Associations are created equal, so to speak. And like you said, we've got like, I think it's about a dozen, like you said. So the Chicago Bar Association, from what I've heard from you and what I've heard from a lot of other people, is the most thorough. And even though everybody's got their own, as hard as you try to be objective, you know, and I have to deal with it too, being a journalist, you know, you still have to think very hard about it. It's like, okay, I don't want this to influence me or that to influence me. There's a lot of times there's things that come into play, but they are probably the most objective, have the least axe to grind, and are coming from the most neutral place and are the most thorough. And you were saying, Jim, also the Illinois State Bar Association may not be as large or as thorough, but they also actually have the least axe to grind.